Hey, what's going on everybody? Today is Wednesday, August 12th. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. I'm going to be talking about unemployment insurance today and some of the issues with the executive order that President Trump signed over the weekend. So just to give you a little background, President Trump signed an executive order over the weekend extending $400 per week of added unemployment benefits to unemployed people. The problem with this executive order is that $300 of it will be covered by the federal government and the other $100 will be covered by the state. If there's no additional funding for the states, you can already see that this is going to put states in a big bind. How did we get here? As you know, the CARES Act, signed back in March, added an additional $600 per week in unemployment benefits for unemployed people, and that was fully funded by the federal government. And as you also know, the CARES Act also expanded unemployment to self-employed people, people who drive for Uber or Lyft, independent contractors, those kinds of people. So you have more people who qualify for unemployment. So as you can see here, states already have a pretty big burden just from that alone, just from the additional amount of unemployed people that can draw on unemployment. So now comes this executive order. This executive order has no additional funding for states. It's going to put states in a heavier burden, states that already are running at a deficit. So take, for example, California. California is running at a big deficit compared to last year, and they have over 7 million people on unemployment right now. So this executive order, if they choose to run with this program, will add an additional $700 million per week that they have to pay out. Now think about that, $700 million per week. They're already running at a deficit. That means that they're gonna have to do some major cuts to a lot of their programs in order to make this even work. They might not even choose to participate in this particular program, which is unfortunate because a lot of the people really need this extra money. So that's the thing with this executive order, like states can choose to not participate, and then there just won't be an additional $400 per week. And you'll still get your state funded unemployment, but no expanded unemployment benefits. The other problem here is that states will have to reprogram or retweak their unemployment software or their unemployment systems to adjust for this change. We saw that originally in the CARES Act that it took several weeks for many states to get their systems upgraded or updated with that $600 per week information in order to properly pay out to unemployed folks. And some states are still, as of the end of July, we're still having problems with that extra $600 a week. So now we have this $400 per week program that's supposed to only last for a few weeks, and I'll go into that later, but it's only supposed to last for a few weeks, and states have to reprogram their computers, and then essentially they might have to reprogram their computers again because of any new laws that may be agreed upon between the Senate and the House. So far that's a couple pieces of bad news for folks that were looking for unemployment extensions. So why is it this way? Like how does an executive order differ from a law? Well, first of all, an executive order is something that the president can just sign into the law without having the required votes by the House and the Senate. Okay? So what that means is, yes, the president can have a certain amount of powers, but they're also still a little limited. For example, he can't create more funding for the program. The CARES Act, they allocated several $100 billion to unemployment benefits or to the Paycheck Protection Program. They were able to create that funding for those programs in order to make those programs work. But in this case, the president can't just create more funding or create a budget for this program. So he had to basically reallocate budget from one program to another program. So he's taking money from the Department of Homeland Security's disaster relief funds, which has about $70 billion in there right now. Okay, he's allocating about $44 billion of it for this program, which means that if all the states participate in this program, it will last only 4 to 5 weeks at most. Okay, because we have about 30 million people unemployed at $300 per person. That's the federal portion, $300 per person divided into $44 billion. That's about 4.8 weeks. So not a long time, but what this could do is give Congress more time to at least come to an agreement for an actual law to be passed. Most likely, Congress will agree upon a law or legislation that will be a more permanent solution. So that would be a good thing. And hopefully in the meantime, people will be getting some expanded benefits. Now, people won't be getting expanded benefits if their states choose not to participate in this program, because it would be such a huge burden on them. And also, people won't be getting benefits if they are receiving less than $100 per week off of their state unemployment benefits, okay? So that was another thing in this executive order, is that if you don't make at least $100 per week from your state benefits, you don't get any of this expanded benefits. Whereas the law passed in the CARES Act with the $600 additional benefits, even if you were making like $50 or $90 or $80 on your state unemployment, you would still get the additional $600 per week, no matter what. But in this case, you have to make at least $100 per week, which will leave, I think, between 10 to 15% of unemployed folks out of this program completely. This program at least gives lawmakers a little more time. It's not perfect. You know, none of these programs will probably be perfect, but it's something, right? It's gonna give them more time to at least come to an agreement for unemployment, a more permanent solution, a more long-term solution. Hopefully with such a pressure off their backs, they'll be able to make better decisions. But that, you know, again, the problem there is if lawmakers come up with another program, then states will have to basically retweak and rework their systems to make another adjustment, which could take several weeks. So we're looking at several weeks, possibly, before folks even get additional unemployment benefits, which is just too bad, because that's Congress's fault for not coming to negotiations sooner than, a couple weeks before the expanded benefits expired. Now, there are other things that Congress also still needs to agree on, such as funding for schools or potentially funding for states. We know that one thing that they for sure agree on is the second stimulus check, okay? $1,200 per individual, per qualifying individual, and $500 per qualifying dependent will receive a stimulus check. When? We just don't know. Congress has been saying, oh, hopefully it's this week, hopefully it's this week. They've been doing that for several weeks now. So at this point, I'm not gonna hold my breath. The only thing I know for sure is that both sides, Democrats and Republicans, agree on having a second stimulus check, and they agree on the amount of it. The Senate Republicans did introduce the HEALS Act, which is a conglomerate of bills. Okay, a conglomerate of different bills covering different programs. So it's kind of strange to me as to why the Congress doesn't just agree on the stimulus check portion while they hash out all these other details, Like if stimulus check is in one bill, unemployment is on another bill, school funding is on a separate bill, I would just, agree on stimulus check bill and sign that into law so that people get their funding quicker. That would be beneficial for more people more quickly. Get the money now while they hash out all these other details. We'll see what goes on there. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Ryan. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like button if you enjoyed this content. And if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel, as I'll be putting out important updates regarding the stimulus packages every day. And please let me know in the comments below what you think about this executive order, what you think about Congress, what your experience has been like getting unemployment, and any other comments or questions that you may have, and I'll be sure to try to get to them. All right, thanks for joining me. Take care for now and stay safe.